For my independent study unit, I chose the novel The Catcher in the Rye, written by J.D. Salinger. First, I'm going to talk about my thoughts and opinions on the novel. After reading the novel, I felt that J.D. Salinger did an amazing job portraying a teenager's complicated mindset. The novel touches upon many common issues that teens go through, such as sexuality, mental health issues, and relationships, allowing the story to be relatable to many audiences. I found the storyline to be very intriguing, but highly repetitive and slow at times. The main character, Holden, is following the same routine over and over, consisting of deciding against calling Jane, calling someone else, having a miserable time with them, and then repeat. I felt like I was waiting for a big climax of the story, but was never completely satisfied. For those reasons, I gave the novel 2.5 out of 5 stars. Summary. This novel follows a young boy named Holden Caulfield. Holden's bad habits and lack of motivation got him expelled from his private school, Pensy Prep. After getting in a fight with his roommate, Stradlater, Holden decides to leave school a few days early. He is too ashamed to face his parents, but doesn't want to stay at school, so he decides to spend a few days alone in New York City. While on his journey, he encounters many interesting people and partakes in several uncharacteristic events. For example, Holden hires a prostitute, meets up with an ex-girlfriend, and spends the night sleeping on a park bench. At the end of the book, he finally returns home and foreshadows that he will be attending school again next year. Holden Caulfield character summary. Holden is 16 years old. His family includes his mother, his father, his older brother, and his younger sister. He experienced the traumatic death of his other brother, Ali, when he was younger, which has caused him many psychological issues presented throughout the story. Holden has already been kicked out of 3 schools before getting kicked out of Pensy. He is very hypocritical as he is constantly judging others for being phony. However, he is acting no less fake than they are. He has very strong feelings for a girl named Jane Gallagher. Holden often feels very lonely and depressed. Quote, "I almost wished I was dead," is one of Holden's most common quotes that he says whenever he's feeling slightly down. Themes. Salinger explores many themes throughout the novel, including death, which is represented by his brother Ali passing away at a young age, depression, which is represented by Holden's dark feelings and thoughts throughout the story, family, represented by his close relationship with his sister Phoebe and his brother DB, appearance versus reality, which is represented by Holden judging people for how they appear rather than who they really are. However, the most dominant theme shown throughout the novel is the loss of innocence. Loss of innocence. Innocence is the quality of having no experience or knowledge of the more complex or unpleasant aspects of life. Children are growing up too fast and not getting to fully experience the gift of adolescence. Although it is a devastating act, all children must go through this in order to grow and mature into a functioning adult. Thesis. The theme, loss of innocence, is represented through the main character Holden and his mature experiences in New York, his relationship with his sister, and his love for Jane Gallagher. Holden's experience in New York City. Holden leaves his childhood in Pennsylvania and enters the real world in New York City, filled with lies, broken dreams, and a lot of drinking. He checks into a hotel, then goes down to the hotel's nightclub, but is declined when he tries to order a drink. All Holden's classmates are going to movies and watching football games, while he is at a bar flirting with older women, representing the loss of Holden's own innocence. After his depressing night out comes to an end, Holden hires a prostitute to his room. His true innocence is shown when he declines the girl's advances, revealing that even though Holden is desperately trying to conform to the adults around him, he is still an immature child on the inside. Next, we're going to talk about Phoebe Caulfield. Phoebe Caulfield is Holden's 10-year-old little sister. She is incredibly intelligent and acts as a rock for Holden. Quote, "I mean, if you tell old Phoebe something, she knows exactly what the hell you're talking about." She is very youthful and still has her innocence, which Holden is desperately trying to protect. Phoebe is the first person to ever confront Holden on his constant negativity when she says, "You don't like anything that's happening." Holden's relationship with his sister. Phoebe is one of the only people that Holden can truly trust and let into his life. Protecting her innocence is the main drive of his existence. When Holden visits Phoebe's school and sees cruel words written on the doors, he gets extremely upset. He desperately tries to rub the words off in an attempt to protect the young children from the cruelty and violence of growing up. Throughout the duration of his trip in New York City, Holden learns that adulthood is a terrifying and depressing thing and doesn't want Phoebe to ever experience what he went through. Holden's love for Jane Gallagher. Since the moment Holden's roommate Stradlater mentioned he was going out with Jane, Holden couldn't get her off his mind. It was later revealed that Jane Gallagher was Holden's first love. Holden was disgusted knowing that Stradlater was going out with Jane, as he knew what type of guy he was. His anger gets out of hand when he physically attacks Stradlater for taking a part of Jane's purity. Holden and Jane's relationship was the definition of innocent. He even quoted, "She was terrific to hold hands with." Although Holden is constantly flirting with older women, he can't get his pure and unaltered relationship with Jane out of his head. This reveals his obsession with protecting her from the loss of her own innocence. Final thoughts. After reading J.D. Salinger's thought-provoking novel, it is evident that the dominant theme throughout the story is the loss of innocence. Holden Caulfield demonstrates this theme by desperately trying to protect the innocence of those around him, while also fighting the fact that his own youth is disappearing before his eyes. Quote, "What I have to do, I have to catch everybody if they start to go over the cliff. I just be the catcher in the rye and all." This quote reveals that Holden's true aspiration is to be the catcher in the rye and save all the children from losing their innocence. Outside source. This article is titled "The Loss of Childhood" and was published by the New York Times in 1983. The article proposes the idea that it is not a child's innocence that is lost, but it is the whole conception of childhood that has been changed. Quote, "The age of protection has ended. An age of preparation has set in," by the New York Times. The article blames the media for poisoning children's minds with X-rated movies and the glamorization of cigarettes and drugs. The article also mentions the liberation movement, where women were less dependent on their husbands and would encourage children to be more independent and assertive. After hearing my thoughts and opinions about the novel, now I want to hear what you think. Discussion question number 1. Do you believe there should be a catcher in the rye to protect children from losing their innocence? Why or why not? Discussion question number 2. Has Holden truly matured by the end of the book? Does he lose his own innocence? Discussion question number 3. Can we really trust Holden's description of the events that took place in New York City? Or maybe all the stories were over-exaggerated to make adulthood seem like a terrible thing and scare children into holding on to their innocence? Thank you for listening to my independent study presentation on The Catcher in the Rye. I hope you enjoyed.